Okay. Okay. Hello, everybody. Tonight is a special night. Of course, every night is special with advocacy, but tonight is Thursday, May the 2nd. Great. Y'all, we're in May. Can you believe that? But May the 2nd, and we're excited because, again, we're bringing to you a very interesting topic tonight. We're bringing you Nadine Fonrose is with us, and she wants to talk to us about, taking care of your parent. Her, I'm not going to tell everything about her because I'm going to give her the red carpet as always to give us information on her dad and what she went through taking care of her dad. Tonight I'm joined with Crystal. Crystal, of course, is from the DMV, but she lives in Michigan with her husband and five children. Three of them have disabilities. I'm also with Bunny, who lives in the DMV. Bunny is married. She has three children. Many of you all saw Bunny's family on there last week. So if you didn't, go back and look at the show. Very interesting. And of course, you have me. I grew up in the DMV as well. I'm married. I have a special needs daughter who's 19, Morgan Pop. I know you all hear me talk about her a lot. And I have a 24-year-old son. So, with that being said, again, we thank you for joining us tonight. We're sitting on the edge of our seat. Not putting any pressure on you, Nadine, but we're sitting on the edge of our seat, waiting to hear your story. So, with that being said, just tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us where you grew up. Tell us about your family dynamics, and then we'll jump straight into the subject. Welcome, Nadine, to Advocacy, y'all. Let's give her a welcome.
Thank
Welcome,
you.
welcome, Nadine.
Thank you so much. So let's see. I was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York, and my family, we're of Haitian descent. And let's see, I came to the DMV area when I was about 10 years old. So I'm pretty much considered, a metropolitan person. So this topic is very dear to me as far as elder care. I have two other siblings. We're a family of three. My parents, they've been married for, I think, about over 54 years. My dad passed last year. And it's been, very challenging for us. But as a family unit, we are really strong and thankful for the support system that we have. We're very grateful. But I'm ready to, get this going and hopefully help, to share some of my experiences.
Okay, Nadine, can you tell us how it started off, how you guys recognize certain things? First of all, I don't know if you mentioned your what your dad was diagnosed with, but can you give us a little background on how he was diagnosed and then what led you all to do some of the things that you did?
Yes. So he was diagnosed in 2015. So he had dementia for several years. Well, no, he was diagnosed in 2015. So some of the early stage signs that we saw, he was having problems, I guess, driving, but we didn't know because he was very good as far as keeping things kind of, I would say, not a secret, but he was good with hiding certain things. So he was very independent. So we didn't realize he was having issues with driving until I started talking to my son, and he would tell me things like, oh, yeah, he would take him to school every day, well, pick him up from school. And he'd say things like, oh, I had to, he asked me how to get home, how to drive home from the school. And I'm thinking, what? But when he's interacting with us, we would never, experience anything like that. And I said, yeah, oh, he just figured it was, he was having a senior moment. And then he told me things like, oh, we were going to the barbershop and he couldn't figure out how to get into the barbershop or which door to go to. So we started, to get concerned. We also noticed he had a social media account. So he was sort of interacting socially as far as communicating. His communications were kind of off a little bit. And even in his email communications, things were a little off. So We did have him tested in 2015, and that's when he was diagnosed as having vascular subcortical dementia. And that pretty much was dementia of the frontal lobe. And it turns out in the MRI, he had a series of mini strokes. But this is something that's very normal. We never knew. He didn't know. It's just mini strokes that eventually damage that part of your brain, and then can later on become full-blown dementia. The diagnosis, they then wanted him to take a driving test. And the driving test lasted about 5 minutes because he went to his four-way stop sign, and the person that was testing him said, all right, do you go left or right? And he really couldn't do that. So we were terrified because we were thinking, my goodness, he had been driving all this time. He wasn't going too far, but, he was on the road. And so that was really scary.
Nadine, how old was your dad at the time? At that time?
At the time, he was in his mid-70s. He was in his mid-70s. But never really had any issues driving prior to, these symptoms. I will say it was very hard for him to have his driver's license, revoked, because he had spent all his life being very independent. He was, the head of our household, so my mother didn't drive, so he took her everywhere. Wow. So it was very, very difficult for him. So I do notice dementia patients, it's a lot for them to experience these changes as well. That's happening to them. And then the loved ones are experiencing them. So it is very challenging all the way around.
Yeah. How do you go through the process of getting a person's license revoked?
So it's literally a test. And like I said, the test lasted 5 minutes. After that, you have to take the paperwork to the DMV, and then they convert your driver's license to an ID card.
I can see that. Okay. So, Nadine, you said you were able to take your dad to the doctor and have him tested. Like, was that something he was willingly able to do, or did he resist? Because, sometimes, like you're saying, your dad is independent. Sometimes they feel like, no, there's nothing wrong with me, or how did that go?
So his personality, I think, helped us a lot throughout this entire experience. He's a very mild-mannered person. So he did not resist at all. If anything, when we went to the location, I know I can't, discuss locations, but we went to a really, really good facility. And while we were sitting in the waiting room, because it's mainly dementia patients and Alzheimer's, I was sitting there and we were interacting. Well, no, we were just sitting there and watching what happened as far as how they're screaming at the nursing staff, the front desk, even the man, the doctors. But my dad did not exhibit any of that type of behavior. If anything, his neurologist was always so happy to see him because he said he was the most pleasant dementia patient he's ever had. So I think we lucked out. Yeah.
Yeah. Your dad was one of the nicest people that you could ever meet. I will always say that he greeted me with a hug and a kiss. I think, is that part of your, the Haitian way of greeting people, or was that just him?
Oh, no, that's definitely our culture, but he is not. I mean, we grew up, you talk about how I grew up. He was the only person in the household that had that personality, unfortunately. So his mother, who lived to be 103.5, she died 30 days before her 104th birthday. She was a very boisterous person. Yes, my mom, full of energy. My sister, my brother, myself, I'm, half and half. But my dad, I don't know how he survived in that household.
So, no, yes, he was. Oh my goodness.
He was,
Nadine, tell us some of the stages. I know it started in 2015. I'm sure most of it didn't stay at a certain point. Tell us some of the stages that, you all went through with your dad. Because I know it didn't go from 2015 till, he passed away. Tell us some of the things you guys experienced in that time frame.
So all your questions are the things that I was going to hit. So if I don't have anything to say by the time it's over, I literally have it wrote down. No, so yes, so in 2015, he had what they considered early stage dementia. So at that point, his memory is off. He's struggling to find words, confusion, all that sets in. And then I actually have around 2020, right around when the pandemic happened, I believe he was pretty much diagnosed to be in the mid stage. At that point, their sleep disturbances, they can't sleep at night. They're waking up in the middle of the night, trying to leave the house. We had a few close calls. I'm very thankful that my mom is a light sleeper. There were times when she just wake up in the middle of her sleep and he's downstairs at the front door.
Oh no.
Yeah, that happened. So, and
Did
you
you
know,
guys
that's the,
have to do? I'm sorry. Did you guys
no,
have to
that's
put
fair.
locks on anything
We
different
ended up,
for the
so they ended up
security?
moving to a condo to limit the amount of space that he needed to navigate in. I think we ended up doing like a bell so that it could wake her up. But that is something that's common in mid-stage dementia. There's always a need for them to get up and go somewhere, or they're always trying to just leave. That was constant. In that stage, also, I recall, unfortunately, there's like hallucinations where they're not clear where they are. So that all was happening. And I have to say, the pandemic, I think, made it worse because prior to the pandemic, they were very active with their senior center. They were going at least 3 days a week, interacting with other seniors, which I think is crucial.
Yes.
He was playing dominoes the days that they did go, he's playing dominoes, interacting with their friends. And then when the pandemic hit, all that came to a stop. Also, I was taking him to church every Sunday too. So that was very important for him. So then it all came to a standstill in 2020. So unfortunately, I think that helped in the decline. Maybe, who knows? So we did do our best, but as you know, everybody did, went through a lot around the pandemic. And then the most difficult stage is what's considered the late stage dementia. And that's a complete nightmare. This is when he's bedridden, he's losing motor skills, he's unable to talk. I learned that apparently you lose your, you revert back to your native language. So it was strange.
Really?
We're in the hospital, they're talking to him, but he's responding in French and everything, or in Creole. And I'm like, when did that happen? And one of the nurses said, oh yeah, they revert back. So he just completely forgot. Well, he could communicate. He understood the English language, but wouldn't communicate. So she explained to me, she said, yeah, that's part of the decline. And I was like, wow, that's just crazy. But yeah, and then pretty much they become what they call total care, where, they're unable to feed themselves and do all the basic daily duties, which is very, very difficult to watch your family member just, decline.
Yeah. So Nadine, from the time your dad was diagnosed until he passed, how many years was that?
About 8 or 9 years.
Okay.
That seems really, I mean, I don't know. I know that I hear all I hear now, and now associated with Bruce Willis is frontal lobe, frontal lobe. Is that kind of what your dad's diagnosis was, frontal lobe?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
okay. So once they're diagnosed, is there any medication? I've always heard this. Is there any medication that they start giving them to slow the process down?
Yes, he was on medication. His neurologist did provide medication that literally does that, right? Slow it down. While we were in mid stage, now that I've gone over the stages, we did notice changes in his personality, which was hard for us because remember, he's this kind person. But he would have some moments where he would get agitated and aggravated. And so there is medication to kind of calm that down. So it's tricky though, because you don't want to give them too much because then he's too sedated and he can't communicate and interact with you. So you don't want to do that either. So just trying to find that balance. It was very challenging.
I can imagine. And it's like I'm thinking of like during the pandemic to go from being active 2 to 3 plus days a week being social. What are some of the things that you as a family did with your dad to help him in those areas of just even getting out, or because I think a lot of households with loved ones that were experiencing dementia, Alzheimer's, I think that was very challenging for them as well. So could you share with us some of the things that your family did?
Well, I can't take credit, but my mom's church, she's a Jehovah's Witness. They were crucial. They were because they were interacting virtually. So they had Wednesday night activities and Saturday, and even sometimes I think on Sundays. And so although everything was virtual, because his church we couldn't go, there wasn't really, he's Catholic, there wasn't really his church didn't do anything virtual. So he participated in all those activities. So this is when we were all on shutdown. So I think that helped a lot. After that, when the world opened back up, we were taking him not too far though, because let's see. So this is 2021. Yeah, it's kind of hard for him to walk. He loved to walk. In early stage, he couldn't really walk anymore. She said it would take him so long to just walk down the street, because we tried to, at least have them walk around in the community, but things just started to deteriorate. So, and we did social activities as, during the holidays and everything. He loved that. He's a social butterfly, so he loved that, interacting with family.
What are some of the things, tell me this, some of the things that your mom had to do? I want to understand and know, because they've been married so long, how did that take a toll on her to see her die? I took a toll on the kids, but she was there day in and day out.
Oh yeah, there's no comparison to what we experienced and what she's experienced, because you're right. She's the true caregiver. I'm just like backup. So on the sidelines. It's very, very difficult for her. I think her faith in God is what got her through, because I don't know. Remember, he's waking up in the middle of the night, hallucinating. She can't sleep. He can't sleep. She can't sleep. He was very attached to her. So it was this happened around it was before the pandemic too. She was running a cake business. So she's spending a lot of time in the kitchen. It got to the point where she had to just sit with him, because for whatever reason, he just wanted companionship, but it had to be her. So it was hard for her to continue to manage, different types of things in her life. So she ended up retiring from, doing cakes as well. But he relied on her for everything. It was very, very difficult. But I think, she always says, well, that's what I signed up for. That's what I signed up for.
That's so sweet.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, that's hard, because I think ultimately what we're hearing is that, and I think that's period, when something like this happens, it doesn't just affect one person, it affects the whole family. And with your father being the leader of that family, it takes its toll on the family as a whole, because life as you knew it does not exist anymore. It doesn't. So it comes to a place where it's like, wow, this is our new reality.
Yeah,
Wow.
that's really hard. Nadine, quick question about your mom. How is she doing? Physically and mentally, did any of this affect her physically?
Wow. Yes. So you hear me talk about the home, because he was in the home, and that was our intention, to keep him at home as much as possible. But she ended up injuring. So now that he has transitioned to so I have that he transitioned into late stage 2022, and then last year 2023. So he's bedridden as of like November of 2022. She was his primary caregiver. So she was accustomed to just helping him do all of the, the day-to-day activities, which means bathing, everything. He got to the point where he couldn't do those things anymore. Well, we did have some help. So we did have some nursing assistants, and I have a wonderful family member that came in and helped us out. But she was still primary. That's the key. So she ended up dislocating her disc, the disc in her back.
Oh,
wow.
Yes. So she became bedridden.
Oh, wow.
Here we have two.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So
oh, my goodness.
Yeah. So unfortunately, that was the beginning. That's how we started out 2023. So when that happened, and it was, they lived alone, but we had an app on their phone where we could open their door and everything. So I was letting the nursing assistants in, virtually with the door because she couldn't walk, and I would go there, as much as possible. But then we realized that setup wasn't going to work anymore, and that's when we made that very, very difficult decision to have him placed in a nursing facility, nursing facility.
Now, were they in the same state or city close by you where you lived? Or were they out
The
of
nursing
town?
facility,
Your
yes.
your your family, your family, your dad, your mom and dad, they lived in the same area with you?
Oh yes, mm-hmm.
Oh,
Yes,
okay. Okay.
yes, 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 yes. Yeah. So yeah, and to this day she still suffers with that back injury, but that's how we ended up making that decision. It was very difficult, but yeah.
Tell us when you all moved into that stage, how did you go through finding the right place for your dad? Or if there is a right place, I mean, but just, I can
Yeah,
only,
that's
There
difficult.
is there
Yeah.
yeah.
is no right place, as my wonderful cousin told me, who works in this industry. I was asking for her advice, and she was like, "There." I mean, I don't know what I can say. Yeah, they're.
They're
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not saying one
I
specifically is
mean,
They're
bad.
bad.
Yeah.
he was with one of the top. Oh my god! I was like, "This is the top." Yeah, but we went there every single day for 3 months straight. He was there for 3 months. Yeah. My mother and I took turns. We had shifts. So yeah, because he, at that point, he couldn't feed himself. So we were making sure that we were feeding him. I think we did lunch and dinner, and then the staff did breakfast. But yeah, we were there every single day. And if I was on vacation or something, some family member or someone from her church, they were, my sister who lived out of state, we were all kind of, figuring it all out. But we made sure that someone was always there with him.
Yeah, you have to. I remember my dad was in a nursing home, and my plan was to go in and try to just be best friends with the staff.
We
And it
were.
was, yeah, it was difficult in the beginning, but I won them over with cupcakes, cookies, and
Yep.
everything,
That's
and
right.
just being overly friendly because I needed them to take care of my dad and not just to allow him to sit and be left alone like that. So yeah, I did everything I could do to really be the best of friends with those women, and they took care of my dad.
That's
But
good.
it's just a shame that I had to give of myself. I was coming every day, making sure that he was taken care of. I was trying not to, like, hey, he needs to be changed, or his
Mm.
sheets need to be changed. I try not to do that. I was like, hey, can I get some sheets? I'll change his bed. Show me how. And once I showed some initiative of I'm going to help you, they kind of was like, okay, no, I got it. Go ahead and sit down. Just visit with your dad. Give me 10 minutes. I'm gonna change your sheets. So yeah, I get the nursing homes and these facilities. I definitely understand.
But
Yeah.
when you think
Yeah.
about it, it's like that all the way around because not that I have to, but I do that with Morgan School.
Oh yeah.
It's kind of like making your presence known. And I think it's so unfortunate. And like I say, I love her school. It's not that I have to do that, but I want them to know that I appreciate them, but I
Mhm.
also want my presence to be seen and I
Right.
want my voice to be heard. And again, that's where advocacy comes in because I always say to myself, our parents almost, it's like a Benjamin Buttons. I don't know if y'all seen that movie. I love
Yeah.
that movie
Yeah.
with Brad Pitt, but it's almost like that mindset, like, you eventually kind of go back, evolve into being a child again, and we become their
Yeah.
parents,
Yes.
you
Yeah.
know. And so we're not just advocating for our children, we're also advocating for our parents, which is why I feel this subject is so important because these days now, I tell everybody, I said, what happened back in the day? Because we didn't have these needs back in the day the way we have them now. Most of the families, we took care of our families. There were no, wait list for nursing homes because everybody had to go on a nursing homes.
Yeah.
How is it different today? I don't know. I don't. But
Well, I
I
think
don't
families
either,
took
but
care of
mhm,
each other.
yeah,
Yeah.
they
yeah.
did. And
And
I
you no
agree
longer
with
see
what
everybody going in a nursing home. You
It's
just
a lot of
didn't.
sickness. It's a lot of sickness because of foods and things that
Yeah.
we drink. I just believe that everything changed with the foods.
I
well, I
do.
think with families, it's always like a hard decision,
Yes.
with many families of placing them in a facility because it's not necessarily the care we would give. But I was going to make this comment, and our viewer Courtney said it. I think
Hmm.
when our loved ones are in any kind of facility, the staff begin to know who
Hmm.
Yeah,
who loved ones care.
Yeah.
Because some
absolutely.
some are just like, hey, they're put away and we'll let them handle it. But then there are many families that show that they care. And I think that's a blessing when the facility, the staff members can see this person is really cared for.
Hmm.
And so I can understand that, but I still think it's still a very hard decision. And
Yeah,
then I
yeah.
know that your family made that decision due to like a circumstance that happened. But I was just wondering, like how did y'all come to that conclusion? Like we just have to. I know why it was a circumstance. Your mother's health too, and her being a primary caregiver. But then was it like collective? Like the family was like, "Mom, we have to support you and take care of you too, and this is best." How
Yeah,
did you
it
guys
was
make the
it was
decision?
yeah, it was definitely a collective decision, and she was against it 100%. I believe the only reason why she agreed is because she physically could not do it. She was 100% against it
Mm.
Wow.
Yeah. It's
because she
I
felt
can't
like it was her
imagine.
job to be his primary caregiver.
And
Yeah.
she really still
Yeah.
was, because if you think about it, she still was up there every day, and they probably had to, I know your mom, they probably had to put her out. It's just from the standpoint that you can't do it by yourself physically in the house, because if you're in the house, in most cases you are physically doing it by yourself.
And
Yeah.
another thing that was happening, which was very scary, he started falling and she couldn't pick him
Mm.
up. So I get a call 11 o'clock midnight to go help her, pull. Yeah. So, I mean, you're right. Safety became a concern as well,
Hmm.
even
Mhm.
at home.
Mhm. When I tell you, I mean, it's so
Wow.
hard too, because for
So
me,
how is your mom
when
today?
Oh,
yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't ask that question. So, it's hard because, that was her best friend and she's still in mourning. But we're around her. She has I think, a great support system, family, friends, that is just helping her through this whole process. But she's still having a very difficult time.
Hmm.
She still can't sleep. She's having problems sleeping, yeah, and she's still not really eating, but she's just taking it one day at a time. They were together since she was 19.
Oh, wow. How many years were they
Wow.
married?
54.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's
Nadine, did he
54
beautiful.
ever
years
not
married and how long
recognize you
together?
guys?
Is it
Oh, I think the same because he married her, then he left to come to New York. Actually, he went to Chicago first, then he came to New York, and then a year after that, they were united.
Did he ever get to the point that he
got it?
didn't recognize anybody or know you guys?
So that was late stage for us. Because I used to, so when we went to his appointments with his neurologist, that's the first thing. This is the same test they do every time. So he would say, "Who's that lady? Who's that lady?" And so he was doing good, passing the test with flying colors over the years. And then, like I said, that 2022, 2023, he would just kind of look and smile.
Mm.
Yeah, because he really couldn't, but he actually he forgot. Of course, he forgot my name first, but he still knew his wife because it was the two of us that would go to the appointments.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Did he ever
Did
become
he ever get physical?
Alan?
Oh,
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask.
Yes. mid stage. Well, not really bad. Just like grinding his teeth and balding up his fists. That's as worse as it got. As bad as it got. But my mom is really funny because once again, this is a mild mannered person. Never really, raised his voice. He doesn't argue. He's just like, oh, whatever. So she thought that was really interesting that he was doing it, and she was like, oh yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
So you didn't experience.
Yeah.
You didn't. She didn't experience like him, like maybe screaming or anything like that.
No, just like grinding his teeth, like that. That's what he did, and she just fell out, and I had to explain to her that this is the dementia. She's like, no, he's ready. What's going on? So I mean, it's all like, no, we can't do this. We can't do this. Now, but yeah, yeah. Other than that, yeah. He didn't. And I'm told that we're very lucky. I am told that because you do have dementia patients. You're right, that are physical. There are a lot of issues, but yeah, that was the extent of it.
I know some people say that it eventually evolves into Alzheimer's. Is that true? And then I to this day don't know the differences.
What's the difference?
So that's interesting. So remember when we went in 2015, the neurologist said, oh, it's a happy day here when I get to diagnose a patient with dementia opposed to Alzheimer's. And I was like, oh, okay. But then as we're going towards late stage, we sent some paperwork, and I noticed they wrote that on the paperwork, and I called the office. I'm like, oh, what happened? Did something change? And I think they were saying that basically it is very hard to diagnose initially, but I don't know, towards the end, as they see him deteriorate, it just kind of goes downhill. They just kind of just put it in that bucket, is what I was told. Yeah.
Yeah, I never knew what the differences were.
It is confusing. It's still confusing for me.
It's confusing even how to say the name. They say Alzheimer's.
I saw it on 60 Minutes, and every time they break it down and talk about the differences, I'm like, okay. But then as time goes by, it's like a lot of them, their behaviors resemble. So it's like, I don't really understand the differences. And I truly don't understand like how they deteriorate. Like in your dad's case, 8 years. I've known people that have had like dementia or Ronald Reagan. They said he had been dealing with that for years, but it's like he had been dealing with that for like maybe 15 or 20 years.
Yeah, I think if the pandemic didn't happen and they still stayed really active, it probably wouldn't have, probably would have lasted a little longer. That's what I think. I think things went downhill. As a result of the pandemic.
I've heard that, Nadine, from other caregivers that had happened. Even on social media, I followed a couple of caregivers and I began to learn more. They shared their journeys, and that was one of the biggest thing they expressed. And so they were just really trying to keep their loved one active during the pandemic stage, like at least going out walking if they're able to and all. But then even as the world kind of started, and our country started opening back up, they did say just it deteriorated after that. They lost their speech. They weren't able to communicate that way. They started losing their appetite. They could not get them back to what they were pre-pandemic.
Exactly.
And then, and so it was a journey, a very similar journey of caregivers. It really was. So to hear you say that, I can definitely understand and see that. So it lets us know how activities in the life of someone that's experiencing that is very important.
Yes.
Some people want to keep them and protect them and keep them inside and safe. And I think maybe hearing, as you tell us, Nadine, that may be more harmful than we think.
Yeah, I think that social interaction is huge. And then for them, just to be out in the community if they can is important.
Yeah, and I think even with our special needs individuals, many of them suffer from social anxiety. And I know that's Morgan Pop, but the one thing that I have noticed that as I kept pushing her into those environments, it's I even told hubby the other day, I said, wow, it's amazing how she's getting better socially. Now she's back to smiling and
Oh,
Yeah,
she's
she
back to
smiled at me
waving.
Sunday.
oh,
Exactly. And when people go past, she will wave at them and look at me and smile. But I think sometimes we take that that's we don't realize how important that social aspect of someone's life is. It's so important. It's so
Yeah,
important. So when you're missing that, it's almost like even during the pandemic, I know that happened with your dad and you said Crystal what happened with others, but look at the kids. Look at how what happened to the kids, and it happened to people who were in the home and they were completely healthy. They a lot of suicides happened during the pandemic. People just don't realize how that social aspect is so important when it comes.
absolutely.
Yeah, so that right there alone is very important.
and not
Hmm.
just socializing with family members, but I think the community, just getting out there with seniors, their age, and everything.
It keeps them active.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
Mhm.
It
Mhm.
does. It does. I want to go back. There was a statement, a comment made by one of our viewers, Bethany, and she said that families are a lot smaller these days. They had more people to help. And well, now we are not having many kids now, and all of the burden is on a few people. And I think we experienced that with a past guest that we had, that being an only child and
Yes.
caring for a loved one with dementia, it was very we could see how it was affecting her life as well. But families are there are not a lot of people in the family to care for a
Yep.
loved one. So for Nadine, for your mom to, she was like, she's pouring all her love into her husband and then the children. That is a blessing. That is
Yeah,
a
Yeah.
great blessing because some people, the
absolutely.
choice is a facility.
Yep.
That's
Yeah.
that's the only option, like the burden is on them. They may have their own family or they're out of the state, out of the area. And it's crucial if you just move people out of their environment.
Yeah,
It's not as easy to say, hey, well, come live with me. And I live,
Mhm.
on the West
Yeah,
Coast, like they're not part of their
a
community or
different
familiar
environment.
people. Yeah. And so, it's just, it can come down to some really hard decisions, but to
Mhm.
hear that you and your family, your siblings, and your mom really support your dad and care for him, that, definitely speaks volumes. And I know you might think, well, that's what we're supposed to do. We all
No,
know
don't
it doesn't
always
matter if
happen
that's what
like
we're
that.
so right. It doesn't always come like that. You think, well, that's your mom, that's your dad, that's what
right.
you're supposed to
Mm-mm.
do. Yeah, it doesn't always happen like that.
Because you
Yeah.
do find a lot of people these days, you find some strangers that will do you better, and that's just the way it
Absolutely.
is. And I think too, I mean, sometimes I look at like, is the demand on life harder for us? I don't know. Because I just think that back in the day, Crystal, I think of our grandfathers. Um, our great grandfather when they lived in Hughesville, it was like, oh, you're right, Bethany, most of the people lived together, so there was always someone there that
Somebody.
could take care of that person. I think now you're right, the families are smaller, we're spread it out, and it's like everything is just everybody's life is full, their plate is full
Hmm.
at all times. So if
Yeah.
you even think about, hey, can like we pull our resources together to do this, it's literally hard.
Yeah.
Nobody plans for this.
That is true.
Mm-mm.
That is true.
Nobody plans for this.
You're getting older, and your parents are getting older too, and you don't think, oh, this is part of the plan. You got to flip the script and become the caregiver for your parent. So that's true.
So
And
Nadine,
nobody plans for this. I'm sorry, go
Mm-mm.
ahead, Bunny.
right? Nobody. Nadine, how do you feel about all of this? Even things that your dad went through, your mom, what she had to go through. How are you doing?
I think I'm okay. I'm very thankful and blessed because I think this could have played out in so many different ways. And I know they say, God won't give you more than you can handle. Because, when you look at the whole experience and we look back now, I can't believe that we did everything that we did. I just, it's unbelievable. But
I can.
you.
No, I can because I know your family. I do. I'm not surprised. I'm not. Mm-mm. Your family is just that type of family. I could see that. I mean, and then just Nadine. I mean, Nadine is downplaying herself. Y'all, we are good friends, but Nadine is the oldest of all the siblings, and she takes that role seriously. And I think a lot of the time she gives so much of herself without even wondering, okay, am I doing too much? Where's the other person? Nadine just takes it on. And I honestly, I mean, I didn't expect anything different. I didn't.
Oh,
I mean,
wow.
because she takes that role seriously. I mean, and it's so it's so selfless. I mean, I was working with her, and I mean, she was tugging work and she was tugging at her dad. And I know she's somebody that likes to go to sleep early. And when she was saying how her mom would have to call at midnight and she would have to go over there, man, that's a blessing. God's gonna
Mhm.
truly bless you. He is.
Absolutely.
He is, because even though we think that people should do that, it doesn't always happen like that.
Right. Right. Right.
I agree. So Nadine, by you being the oldest sibling, do you think like your other siblings, they like kind of follow suit, followed your example as well? Or were they trying to beat you to the punch? Because I always tell my kids, I told my husband this when my kids were small. I said, I'm trying to raise them. So when I get to that age, they be fighting over like, mom coming with me,
I'm gonna take
mom
care of
coming with
mom.
me. So then he said, well, they just need to know dad going where mom at. And I was like, well, I don't know. You have to work that out with your own kids. I said, tease them. But like, did your siblings kind of like follow suit, or were they like, Nadine, we got this? Like, how did that work together?
My sister was a huge support. Although she was living in another state, she did so much as far as just the phone calls, managing. We would split duties, do like, as far as things that we needed to do for our parents. Because I'm talking about my dad. I forgot we're still taking care of my mom too. Right. And so, and then my grandmother, remember I said early on, she lived to 103.5. So all of them, and then he became sick because remember, he was the leader of the household. He would take her to her doctor's appointments and everything. So now we have doctor's appointments for all three. And so you're being split, yeah. So that, and I have
Oh my
children too.
goodness.
So
Read the comment. Read that comment that you
That's her
see.
daughter. That's why I put it
Right.
up there. Yeah.
Go ahead. Read it out loud.
Beautiful.
We want to
no,
hear.
I can't stop.
But it's the truth. And I'm not lying. That's Nadine. That's
And that
Nadine.
is
That's
beautiful.
her
I'm not
daughter.
reading.
That's her daughter. That's
I
her
was
daughter.
doing good.
But I want you to see that. No, I'm serious. That's you, Nadine. And sometimes the Lord puts blinders on. Like people say, Paula, you're strong, you're strong. And I'm like, I'm really not. But it's
Exactly.
like sometimes it's a great thing for you not to see certain things about yourself so that you don't pat yourself on the back. But you know what? It's a blessing when other people can give you your flowers while you're here.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
you.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. One thing that we did not dive into, Nadine, is what was the toll on you? Because, like you said, you and Daphne were handling the financial part. That's a big component when your parents are in this position, getting things in order, overseeing their finances, whereas your father was the leader of that. Now you guys are taking over that role. Tell us about that and how hard that transition was.
Yeah, so that was difficult. One of the things, the comments I did want to make, like I guess lessons learned is to make sure while your parent can still communicate, and I know this sounds very simple, but can sign their own name, because it's going to get to a point where they can't sign their name, that you get the power of attorney in place, that you get the
Mhm.
health care, the advanced directives in place, and the power of health care in place. I'm glad that we had all of that done in advance so that when it came time towards mid and late stage dementia, everything was already in place. Also, what their wants are, as far as these are very difficult conversations to have, to talk about, end of life and what your plans are. But I think having that communication ahead of time will help when when that day eventually does come.
Absolutely.
So we did have all that in place, Paula, which helped us a lot because all of that was already in place.
Mm-hmm. What about his social security? Tell us all about those little woes and how, I mean, because that power of attorney and stuff is good, but sometimes when you present it to, certain people, they like, yeah, the power of attorney is good, but yeah, you need this, you need that. Tell us a little bit about how it was to get his affairs in order and you be able, and you and your sister be able to oversee his bank accounts, pay his bills. Did you find it a challenge to deal with that?
Initially, and I think, so my sister handled all of, like I said, it was three. So my sister handled all of my dad. I did my mom and my grandmother. Yeah, I think I handled, yes. So we did split things up. And that did help a lot because once again, that's a lot to manage. And then you have your own life and then you have a job and, there's things that you're doing too. So the good thing is my mom was like, you know what? Do whatever you need to do. Because her thing was, I'm just here to take care of him. You guys just handle everything else. So that made it easy for us. So I don't know if you were thinking, were we getting any pushback? Not at all. They were very, my dad was, at first he said, no, I can do this. But then when we got to the point where, signing his name on checks and that kind of thing, yeah, we just put that to an end, and my sister was pretty much taking care of all of that.
That's really good that you guys worked together and you supported each other in that process. That's really good because a lot of families don't do that.
And I will say it does help because you're not doing it on your own.
Yep.
It's a huge help.
Now, did you know about a lot of the stuff beforehand, or did you have to get a crash course in your parents' finances? Did they, did you know about like where his accounts were, all of that type of stuff? Because some people,
right.
there's a lot of things that how you can't. What do they have those little cases where there's a lot of money that people have put in life insurance?
We did file and we did find some money. The unclaimed property, we put his name in, and there was some old stocks or something that was small.
Send me that link so I can put my name in there.
Yeah, everybody should go to that website. Wow. I mean, it was only like $200, but still, we did find
only.
That came in handy.
No, we did. Yes. So I would ask my mom because he handled everything. There were things that she didn't know, and you're right. We're literally digging because now we can ask him where things are. He can't communicate with us. So I know my sister was handling so whatever she was able to handle when he was, able to communicate, that's all the information we had. And then we did have to do some investigations, contacting his old job. We did have to do some of that kind of digging.
Yeah. I encourage everybody to really talk to their parents about that, especially when they are at the age or the understanding that these things we need to sit down at the table and have a conversation because it's extremely crucial to have that knowledge of all the finances, everything, their well wishes, their afterlife pre-planning, all of that stuff is so important to have. So that's really good that you guys were able to get that taken care of. And I'm almost certain that you've got that done with your mom as well.
Yeah, we did. You're right. Because when you're doing it for one, you do it for the other. So we did them both at the same time. Yep. We sure did. Yeah.
And then that's a difficult, when that
Can
happens,
I put a plug in for the resources we did, Paula? Are we allowed to say what we used?
Yes.
Help all of us.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, SusieOrmond.com has it was a long time ago, but at the time it was a disc. So now she probably has the website that you can go and it literally walks you through everything, the living will, the irrevocable trust, the power of attorney, everything. And so because I did this on my own and saved thousands of dollars opposed to going to a lawyer, it was interesting because when I had to use the documents to see, oh my God, are they really official? Like, is this really gonna fly? And it did. Yep, it passed. It passed.
You
So the
said
document,
Mm-hmm.
Susie Orman, she's the financial guru,
yes,
right?
yes, yeah. She
Mm-hmm.
has
Mm-hmm.
well, this is a long time ago. I think like
Hmm.
20, but I'm sure her website still has that information. But that's what we used.
Okay,
That's
good to
good.
know.
So what
Hmm.
I'm hearing is for those that are listening, number one, I know back in the day it used to be that your parents had boxes or folders everywhere and no one knew where anything was. But what I'm hearing now is, for me, I talk to Jeremy about it. I talk to Jeremy about this type of stuff right now because at this point, it is very critical that you have these conversations
It
because
is.
and if you even if you have multiple kids, you need to have at least one of those kids to or one or two of them kids to sit down and you be able to tell that stuff too, because those things were things you didn't talk about back in the day. it,
Didn't
it
talk about
was.
it.
Right.
Yeah, but
We
that
need to
can't
change
happen these
that.
days.
We need to change that. It's nothing wrong with talking about it and sitting down for pre-planning. Nothing's wrong with that.
And in some
Exactly.
cases, it could be difficult, for some parts of the discussion. But I agree completely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for me, it's like I'm hearing family members get together, have these conversations. Don't wait until the person cannot really tell you what's going on and
Yeah.
then you trying to
Yeah.
get something out. It don't work like that. These are conversations that need to be had. They
Oh,
do.
Ab-
the end of
And you
life
hope that
discussion.
these, yeah,
Yeah, and now the children are trying to figure out because that you have to make that decision. You're in the hospital now. You have to make that decision. But if the person has already communicated what their wants are, then that makes it a little easier on the children.
on the children. This is such helpful information. It's just unfortunate sometimes that, some families don't have those kind of dynamics. They don't see a responsible child, or you know what I mean? Like you just, this is important, Bunny. You make the really good points. We have these discussion with our parents, but some family dynamics, it just doesn't work out that way. And that's why the children do scramble in that time. You will hope that parents trust their children,
yeah.
or, to be able to handle the affairs correctly. But I still think that even if that is the case, maybe children should still approach their parents with this discussion, to just say, hey, well, even if I'm not the person, what do you want me to do? Or do you want me to
Hmm.
do anything? Or who, or what should I do? And like Bunny said, your well wishes. But it's just unfortunate,
Right.
because I think we
But
all
you
hear stories of families that it just really, it doesn't work out like that.
but you need it in
Our
writing.
parents'
You need it in
generation, you're
writing though.
right.
That's the thing here. You need it in writing.
Hmm.
You
Yeah.
do, and a trust
Right.
is, Paula and I have been learning
Yeah.
that a
Hmm.
trust is definitely way better than a will. I have a will and we're
Ex-
turning it into a trust. So
exactly.
that's important to know as well.
Right.
Hmm. And you're right, because for years
Yes.
everybody talked about a will. Nobody ever
Yeah.
talked
You need a
about a
trust.
A, tr-
trust.
a
But people
irrevocable
are
trust.
just
Yep.
learning about it.
An
Right.
Hmm.
irrevocable
Irrevocable
Yep.
trust.
trust.
You
That's
need
Yep.
a
right,
trust, baby.
Nadine.
Yep.
Yeah, because
And now
something
you
can
can put the
happen.
Yes.
will inside of the irrevocable
Absolutely.
trust.
For the
That's
banks as
fine.
well.
You can put it in there. That's fine.
Another
Yeah, but
thing,
just don't have it as a standalone. And that's what
Exactly.
we had to
Exactly.
learn. Having it as a
Exactly.
standalone is not. We have a will and we thought we were doing great, but no, we need an irrevocable trust. And that's what
Exactly.
we're working on now.
Yeah.
Crystal, can you tell us when you guys talk to that lawyer? Can you tell us the way that he described a will versus a trust? Do you remember that?
Oh yeah, and then just really quickly, we did talk to a lawyer, and he just said that a will is like when all your assets and stuff, they're kind of like all over the in your wagon and you're walking down the street and then you stumble. And he said when you stumble and fall, everything goes up in the air and it's hard to locate it. So it could be still stuck in a tree or something. And if you don't recover from that stumble, it's hard for your family to recover all the things that were in the will. But he was saying irrevocable trust is you're walking down the street and everything is in that wagon and you stumble and you don't recover. But you know what? Everything in that wagon, which is your trust or your assets, it stayed put and it keep on going. The next person that's over that trust, they take the handle of the wagon and they keep going with it. And I thought that was a beautiful explanation to people who may have difficulty understanding a will versus a trust.
Yeah, so if you've got nothing else from this show, get your affairs in order. And I'm going to say this, it's never too early.
Mm-hmm.
It's never too early. I hate to say that, but it's true. It's never too early. I've always been the type of person because, Morgan is disabled and then I have Jeremy. If it wasn't Jeremy, I talk to my sister's kids. They already know their place right now because I have my affairs in order. So for me, it's like, it's never too early because I always thought about, hey, I'm a single mom, and if something happens to me, what's going to happen to my kids? What's going to happen to all of my stuff? What I had to do, and it's another thing, people
That's
got to
right.
understand is putting people on your accounts so they won't have to. Some people do the ghetto version and take the ATM card and keep going to the ATM card into the ATM machine every day. But you put the people on your account. Another thing you have to do is continue
Yeah,
to review those beneficiaries. You may
Oh,
have had Aunt May on there and she died 20 years ago. So these are important decisions that you have to make that you don't want to have to do as soon as they get that document and see, wait a minute, they had Aunt May on there and she died 20 years ago. So now here we are in probate, and then that's where families end up killing each other.
yeah.
So
yeah.
those
I
things
like
are
what
very
Bethany
important.
said. Yeah, Bethany said it helps your kids in the end when things happen later. Okay, put her and it's just easy when they're able to make the decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yeah.
Because if
Because
they're
they're hard
already going through
decisions.
that
Exactly.
and
Yep.
they're already
yeah,
grieving. You're already grieving.
Yes. That's
Now
another point.
you
Yeah.
got this sister that want to do this brother that want to do this. And as we know, it's sad to say, but those are the times when families are clawing at each other. Because the first thing they want to say was mama told me she wanted to be buried in purple. And then this person is like, well, no, she wanted to
it'll be
be
a
buried
whole
in
fight,
red.
a whole
Exactly.
fight.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So these are things, man, that you definitely want to put in place so that when that time comes, if you don't make it for the rapture, listen, we want to make sure everybody has all of that stuff in place. And again, most of our
yeah.
younger people are starting even earlier. I'm serious.
Yeah.
M-
I'm just
Most of
so
our
glad,
people.
Nadine, that you guys had everything straight with your dad, straight with your mom, and that think. And how long has it been since your dad passed?
Last August.
Hmm.
Last August. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So you guys are still
So
really
this is
grieving and
still
healing.
fresh.
It is still.
Yes.
It
Yeah.
it is.
Mhm.
Hmm. But you know what? One thing I
Yeah.
will say is, you guys took such great care of your father. I mean, we all want them to live until they're 200. I don't even think 200 would be enough. But you know what? The
Right.
blessing is when you can sit and you can say, I did the best job possible for my family.
Absolutely. No
Yeah,
regrets.
no regrets. No regrets. For those of you out there that are not on a good page with family members or your parents, not just your parents, but family members, it's time to get it right because you don't want to live with regrets. You want to be able to say when they're passing away that I've
Mm-hmm.
done the best that I can do with them. So I've taken so
Yeah.
many things from this podcast that it's like if you don't have your affairs in order, again, I say get your affairs in order.
And get your stuff in order so that you can take care of your parents because they took
Yes.
care of you. If you're in a position where you can do like Nadine and her family did and take care of your she took care of her dad. If you're in the same position, do everything you can do to take care of your loved ones.
Mm-hmm.
Everything, because when you put them in nursing homes, they do not take care of our loved ones. So if you're in a position, please step up and do what you can do for your loved ones. You'll be blessed in the end. God will truly bless you. And what does the scripture say in the Bible? When you honor your mother and your father, your days on
Mm-hmm.
earth will be longer.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you,
Mm-hmm.
Nadine,
Yes,
for taking
Nadine,
care of
thank you. Yeah, I find it very inspirational to hear your story,
yeah,
to hear how your mom, that, I gained strength from that, hearing of your mom taking care of your dad, even at the cost of her health,
Mm-hmm.
and that how you and your siblings just was very supportive. So I really appreciate you coming on this evening and sharing that part of your life with us.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Well, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. I didn't know if I could make it through
You
because
did
this
You
it.
is a
did
very
good.
sensitive
I
topic.
told
Yeah.
you it, Nadine.
Absolutely.
See, Paula knows me better than I know myself. I tell you, that Paula.
But one thing too, I do want to say to our young people, and I think about this type of stuff all the time. A lot of you all that are out there living reckless, you got to be in a position that when it's time for your parents to pass the torch to you, that you're able to take it. We have a lot of our young people out here that don't have anything on their minds. They're drinking, smoking, and just living life. I caution you because one thing I can say about my mom, we take great care of my mom. I think we do. If there's something that we have to step in the gap for my mom, we do it. You want to be in a position that when something is going wrong, that you can say, hold up, mom, you move out the way. Let me read that contract. Let me make sure you're not being taken advantage of. That's why we have a lot of elderly people out here that's being scammed and taken advantage of because they don't have an advocate
Yeah,
for them. We
absolutely.
gotta be, we gotta step into the gap and make sure our older people are taken care of. They paid their dues. Now it's time for someone to step in the gap and advocate for them.
I forgot to say this. I was supposed to tell you guys at the beginning of this session. This is Older American Month, the month of May.
Wow. So this
Yes,
is perfect.
yes, your timing was perfect
What
on
is
this
it called?
topic.
What is it called?
Older American Month.
Wow.
How
And my mom
Wow.
even
fitting.
put this on here. My mom said, my kids definitely take care of me. That's right. We don't play with Carolyn Woodland. I don't care what else.
I know that's right.
Yeah, we take care of our mom. We will move her out the way in a minute. If somebody comes and says, hey, let's do this. If first of all, my youngest brother, we got to beat him down. He's the youngest. And we have to say, listen, let us step in the gap. Me and my sister don't even have to get there. My brother is on his way because we're not letting anybody take advantage of my mother. At this point, we're fighting because it's like, wait a minute. No, and we did that with our grandmother. You know it, Crystal. When my grandmother was getting sick, we took care of my grandmother. It was an honor
Yes,
to be able to take
Mhm.
care of
it
her
is an
and to
honor.
take her to the doctor. I mean, it was like people running. I take her. No, I take her. I got it. I got. So it's a blessing, and that's what we got to encourage our young people: be in place so that when this happens,
That's
your
it.
parents are not looking around trying to figure out who can I get to take me to a doctor's appointment? Who can I get to go in and ask the right questions? You all need to be in place to be able to take care of your parents. You have to. You have to. You have to. And that's right, Courtney, the whole family should step up. But if
That's right.
nobody else,
Yeah.
those kids should be there for sure. For sure. So I ain't gonna get on my soapbox as Nadine. No, I think I did enough. But I do want to thank you, Nadine, for joining us. I want to thank you for telling your story. And for me, it's an honor to have you on advocacy because I know how you took care of your dad. I knew how you took care of your grandmother. And I know how you currently take care of your mom. And you take care of your family. You're at that front You're at the front door and you do not play when it comes to your children, your husband, your siblings, and that's a blessing. So it's an honor to have you on here.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, so Bunny and Crystal, did y'all have anything to say before we leave?
I already said
No,
it.
thank you so
Yeah.
much. Yes.
All right, Nadine. Well, thank you guys for joining us. We appreciate it. We're gonna be right back on here next Thursday with another interesting subject. So join us next Thursday again. Thank you, Nadine, and everybody. Have a thank you, Bunny. Again, our t-shirts. We're selling
Oh,
our t-shirts. So we need everybody to spread the word. Our t-shirts are being sold now for form of fashion. Of course, they look great. No, they look great. But we want to make sure that everybody knows that when we have people on our shows that's in need, we like to provide things for them. We like to be able to bless them with different things. So the sale of our t-shirts gives us revenue so that we can go and we can, donate to people, send gift cards to people, do things for people.
Yeah.
Our younger ones, we
hmm.
do things for them. So please spread the word. Go and purchase our t-shirts, guys. So Bunny put the link in advocacy. So anybody that's on here, you purchase a t-shirt and spread the word to others. All right, guys.
Bye.
Well, thank you,
Thank you.
everybody. Have a great night. We appreciate you.
Yes. Bye
Bye.
bye.